View is live right now. Senator Bernie Sanders returns to The View live. After a big victory in Wisconsin, can he win the Battle of New York? And of course, no questions off the table. And GOP feeding frenzy. Are they trying too hard to show off their New York values? Plus, Anderson Cooper hits Hot Topics. It all starts now on The View with Whoopi, Michelle Collins, Joy Behar, Candace Cameron Bure, Raven Simone, and Paula Ferris. Now, let's get things started.
To Disco Inferno, a song played at a lot of Bernie Sanders campaign stops because he's here, that's why. Okay, so let's get into a little something here because all the candidates are in New York right now because there were, you know why? Because we have so many delegates here. This is the big enchilada, New York State. We talked about yesterday about how Ted Cruz got a lot of locals mad when he took a shot at New York values. So here's how he's trying to make nice. Watch.
Oh, boy. There you go.
Superb.
Okay, is it really enough to break bread with some Jews in Brooklyn? Is that enough? To redeem himself?
I'm not convinced he actually took a bite. It's like when you fake take a bite, like, that's really good.
I hate the whole thing. It just feels like New York cultural appropriation to me, right? Like, you come to New York, don't try to be from the Bronx, don't try to be from Brooklyn, just be yourself. New York is all about being a melting pot. We're very accepting of everyone else, but we can sniff out an imposter.
But if he's himself, everybody hates him.
But that's what I said in the backstage. I said there's like this checklist that politicians feel like they have to do when they go to each state, and it feels obligatory. It just feels very much like, really? Again?
It's called pandering, folks.
Every single candidate does this, and you know what? Sometimes they don't come back and eat pizza.
I get why
after you check for them.
Well, you know, I get why they do it, though. I mean, it's politics, and I think they feel like, well, I'm going to show you that I'm just like you. I get you. I get your culture. I get your food. I get everything. That doesn't work if your policy doesn't mesh with the majority of the people here. They're not going to say, oh, you ate pizza right, so we love you.
Well, let's watch John Kasich do exactly that. He went after Italians up in the Bronx, eating his way through Arthur Avenue. The guy wolfed down pasta fagioli,
but he looks
spaghetti. Wait a second, spaghetti bolognese. I must say everything because it's a delightful menu.
Like
spaghetti bolognese, a hero sandwich with salami, provolone, pepperoni, hot peppers. So my first question is, do you think Chris Christie's kicking himself for getting out of the race?
I think that John Kasich...
I kid. Chris Christie. Okay.
I think that John Kasich actually looked more genuine than Ted Cruz did eating all that, because each bite, and he had a taster menu.
That was actually
like, like
that was
Italian
a look
food.
of indigestion. Let's just not confuse that with
How
many calories did he eat? What,
thousands.
5,000?
Do you know how many points? About 150 points.
Look, I'm from Cali,
Delicious.
and I'm from Cali, and I don't care if you come and have In-N-Out. You should have In-N-Out because you want it, and I don't need you to have 17 pictures and newspapers around you just to document the situation. It doesn't do anything. I need you to just, you know, legalize weed. That's all I need.
I don't mind the pandering, but when it feels like pandering, like when Trump was trying to pander to the Christians and he held up his Bible and he said 2 Corinthians. Like, you can sniff that out. Or when Ted Cruz went to New Hampshire and he talked about Tom Brady being framed, you know, for Deflategate. I mean, sometimes it's just a little too much.
We know what you're doing.
Okay, so Paul Ryan, I think you know who he is. He's the Speaker of the House. He went into that job reluctantly, supposedly, and now he's sticking his 2 cents into this. So what do you think he's up to here? Watch this clip.
This guy.
He sounds like he's at a funeral.
These are your people. These are your people.
This guy is like the man who wants you to want him, but he doesn't want to date you. That's what he is. He does it every time. He wants to come out and everyone to say, Paul Ryan, run. And he doesn't want to run. It looked to me like he barely wanted to be on the ticket last time.
These are your people. These are your people.
My people.
They're your peeps. They're your peeps. And I think what's incredible is he's talking about identity politics and not being divisive. Really, your peeps won't even give Judge Garland a hearing for the Supreme Court. And he's part of those peeps. Your peeps.
It's unbelievable. He's a very likable guy, but
You think he's likable?
he is. Oh, he is very
And is
likable.
that important, really, if he's likable?
Don't be mistaken.
Paula thinks he's hot.
I think got a crush on him. Policy aside, I've always thought he was hot. I said that six months ago.
There was something inside of that. There was something inside of that he said is like we have to see whose policies are right. And to me, in government, I don't know, I'm new, I just started being a part of it. Is it about who's right or how you can compromise or how you can work with the collective? Because he didn't show me that in that video.
Right.
And you're supposed to be working with the millions and millions of people that are here.
Well,
and no one's right.
Here's a question. Do you think that these presidential candidates or the president himself or herself has to be likable? Because, you know, Cruz is about as popular as the Zika virus. But maybe that doesn't really matter in the end. You know, maybe it's just about what are you going to do, like you say.
I don't know. I sometimes feel, especially new in politics, I have to connect to you as a person first, and then I listen to what you're preaching, and then if I don't like what you're preaching, then I go around it.
Is it a gut thing for you, then?
I mean, I'm a female.
I just think it's crazy. We had almost 25 candidates on both sides of the aisle at the beginning of this process, and nobody seems to really love one person. They're kind of making concessions. There was a good quote somebody said, we're falling in line, not falling in love with any of these candidates.
Why do I have to fall in love with the candidate? I wasn't in love with Nixon. I wasn't in love with Ford. I wasn't in love with Lyndon Johnson. You know how old I am? I wasn't in love with Abraham Lincoln. And I'm not necessarily in love, except Bernie. Well, we'll be right back.
Coming up next at the Hot Topics table, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Senator Bernie Sanders has had some weeks. Days after beating Hillary Clinton in Wisconsin, he gets slammed for his comments on gun control. Hillary's camp says he's not qualified to lead, and now he's got to sit with us. Relax, Bernie, baby. You know how we love you. Please welcome back to The View, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Smaller, but it's great. Thank you.
You're playing Simon and Garfunkel's America, I believe. One of your campaign songs?
Yep.
That's good. You know, I have to tell you, I am happy that you won huge in Wisconsin. The last 6 out of 7 caucuses and primaries, right? You won 6 out of 7.
Won 6 out of the last caucuses and primaries.
Very good. I'm happy for you. What I'm not happy about is that the Democrats, you and Hillary, have taken a turn that I don't like. It's like you're starting to turn on each other, like the Republicans. I liked it that you were such a gentleman, such a mensch, and she was even being ladylike about it. I loved that. And now don't go down to their level.
Okay, fair, good point.
Yeah.
And I hope that stops. I think the people of this country understand we have some enormous crises, and they want the candidates to deal with these crises. And certainly they do not want to have us act like Republicans who are an embarrassment to this entire country in terms of how they are running their campaign. So all I will say in defense, and I hope we can get beyond this, is we have won 6 out of the last 7 caucuses and primaries. My perception is, and I think it is clear, that the Clinton campaign has made a decision, especially here in New York, to get a little bit rough with us. And I just wanted to make it clear to the Clinton people, yes, I come from a nice little state of Vermont, but if we're hit, we can hit back. And I'm not going to be...
So what would you say to Hillary and a lot of the other people who are still questioning if you're a Democrat?
Well, I have been in the Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives for 16 years. I've been in the Democratic caucus in the Senate for 9 years. I was chairman appointed by the Democratic Party in the Senate, chairman of the Veterans Committee for 2 years. I am now the ranking member, leader of the opposition, elected by Democrats on the Budget Committee. I think after 25 years in the Democratic caucus, that makes me, a Democrat. On the other hand, I freely, but here's the point too. I am the longest serving independent in the history of the United States Congress. And for Democrats to win elections, you know what? You need independents too.
You do.
And by the way, you'll need some Republicans too. So I'm not embarrassed that we're getting support across the board.
Right.
You talked a minute ago, if you're hit, you're going to hit back. So I don't know if that was what the comment you talked about Hillary not being qualified to be president. She's been Secretary of State,
Right.
First Lady, Senator.
Right.
What exactly did you mean?
What I meant by this, and again, this was a response to attacks against me for not being qualified. What I meant by this is certainly, does she have the experience? Obviously she does. She was Secretary of State, a U.S. Senator. I thought an outstanding First Lady in many respects, breaking the mold. But what I meant by that, what I thought I made clear, is you call into question the judgment of somebody, I believe, who voted for the war in Iraq, which turns out to be one of the more disastrous foreign policy blunders in our history.
But she regrets that, doesn't she?
Yes, but
Okay.
but here's the point too, and she regrets a lot of things. And I think, and I don't mean, and in saying that, I don't mean to be sarcastic. We all make mistakes. But I regret less than she does because I had the courage to vote the right way, even when it was not necessarily popular. She regrets in 1996, give you an example, I had to cast a very difficult vote, a very unpopular vote, wasn't easy. And that was the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah.
So-called DOMA.
Right.
And what DOMA was about was the saying that if somebody got married, a gay couple got married in a state, they would not be able to get federal benefits. They could not take that marriage to another state. Well, think back, in 1996, respect for gay rights was not then what it is today.
Within reason, because everything's going down over there in the South.
No,
and many things.
That's
There's a lot of
another
things
thing. All
going wrong right now.
But that was a tough vote. And, Secretary Clinton supported DOMA. Her husband supported DOMA, signed the bill, as a matter of fact. I stood out against that. So the point is, it's sometimes you got to stand up even when it is not necessarily popular.
Well, how are you gonna...
And I think on issues like Wall Street deregulation, the war in Iraq, environmental issues, I was there even when the going was
What
tough.
would you say to all those states that state that passed that crazy anti-gay law and all of the other states that are going against the progression of the LGBT community now? What would you say to them?
Well, not only what I would say, as President of the United States, I would do everything I can to overturn these outrageous decisions by Mississippi, North Carolina, etc. We have gone too far as a nation. God knows we have seen so much discrimination in our history, right? Against the African American community, against Latinos, against the Irish, the Italians, the Jews. What we are trying to do is say, you have your political views, that's fine. But I hope we remember what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told us, and that is you judge people on their character, not on the color of their skin, and I would add to, not on their gender or their sexual orientation. So,
The last time you were here, I pressed you on your gun position.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again. And that's because you said that the families who lost loved ones in the Sandy Hook school shooting should not be allowed to sue the gun manufacturers. You've always been about whatever it takes. Just one second, though. You've always talked about increasing corporate responsibility. Then why don't you hold gun manufacturers responsible for...
good, fair question. But what you quoted is not exactly what I said. People have a right in this country to bring lawsuits wherever they want, and that's certainly in the case of anybody. Here is the issue. I come, for example, give you an example. I come from a small state. You own a gun shop. She goes in, goes through the instant background check, legally purchases a gun. You sell her that gun. She flips out or does whatever. She goes out and she kills 3 people. Should you be held liable for selling her that weapon legally? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
But, Senator, you supported almost a blanket immunity for gun manufacturers. What other industry allows that kind of blanket immunity when children are hurt?
In the bill that I supported, there was also language that banned ammunition that could kill police officers who had body armor. There was also language in it that had safety locks to prevent children from killing each other or themselves. What I have said is that I am absolutely willing to relook that bill so that where we do not give them immunity is if you are a manufacturer and you are selling guns into a community and the word is out, we have information that those guns are going to criminals, you know what? You should know that.
Was your support of that bill a mistake?
That bill had some good provisions in it. It had some bad provisions in it.
All right. We have to take a break. We love having you. Stay with us. We'll have more with Senator Bernie Sanders right after this. Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, you wanted to clarify something?
On the gun issue, I hope people don't forget that I have a D- voting record from the NRA and probably lost an election way back in 1988 in Vermont because I said I think these assault weapons should not be sold or distributed in the United States of America. That's
it's so interesting to me to have a Jewish guy running for president. I like it. It's like Cruz is eating matzah up in the Bronx now. You're meeting with the Pope. Pope Francis has invited Bernie to visit in the Vatican. What is it that you two have in common exactly?
We have a lot in common.
Tell me.
And let me be very clear. You know, obviously I have disagreements with the Pope and the Church regarding a woman's right to choose and gay marriage and so forth. But this Pope has been unbelievable in he's so different, in raising consciousness about dealing with trying to create an economy that has moral values. And he has, around the world, said we cannot forget what he calls the dispossessed. That means the unemployed, the elderly people who are alone and without income, the children. And he is trying to say, how can we create an economy which is moral, not an economy which so few have so much and so many have so little.
So I would assume that you think trickle-down economics is immoral. Yes?
I surely do, and so does the Pope. And the Pope has been very explicit about it. He does not believe that giving tax breaks to billionaires or large corporations creates a better life for ordinary people. And the other thing that he says, which is really radical, he says we have got to stop this idolatry and worship of money for the sake of money.
Yes.
We can't worship.
The love of money.
We can't just worship the billionaires out there. We have got to pay attention as to how the economy works for the children. And in our country, we should not have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country.
It's too ingrained in human psyche about having more than the next person. That's so hard to get rid of to me.
The love of money. Raven and I were talking with you in commercial break. How are you going to do this? You need 73% of the remaining delegates. And I know your campaign manager went on record saying that if Hillary doesn't reach the majority, then you will 100% absolutely challenge her for the nomination. You've seen what this is doing to the GOP, a possible open convention. Are you willing to risk that with your own party?
I don't want to get into all of the details. We hope to have a majority as we go into Philadelphia for the convention. But I think what Democrats are also seeing, and if you look at the polling out there, poll after poll shows us as a much stronger candidate against Trump and the other Republicans. We beat Trump, I think, in the last CNN poll by 20 points.
Do you think he's going to be the nominee?
Hard to say. Maybe, maybe not. They may end up with a brokered convention and somebody else gets the nominee. But at the end of the day, I say this, you know, without trying, without hubris here, I think I am the strongest candidate. And one of the reasons is, I think we will obviously have overwhelming Democratic support, but I think we're also doing well with independents and occasionally some Republicans. So I'm fairly confident that if I am the nominee, not only will we beat the Republican candidate, we'll beat him by a pretty large margin.
Okay, I know you love to talk about policy and record, but we're going to ask you some personal questions.
So
Raven
the
wants to-
first one.
Oh, I've got to go.
So the first one is, who's your favorite fictional president?
I like The West Wing. You all remember The West Wing?
Oh, yeah.
Martin Sheen, I think. And I thought that was actually fairly reflective of what really does go on in the White House.
I have two more. Celebrity crush. It's
Uh,
on the paper. It's on the paper.
Joy.
We asked.
We are going to be hearing about this at every single morning meeting next week.
Where's Jane? Where's Jane?
Speaking of his wife, you're with her 24/7, 27 years. What would she say?
Oh, my word.
What would she say is your most annoying habit?
She would probably say, Bernie, stop working. Give it a break. Take some time off. Spend more time with the grandchildren. That's what she would say.
Well, you're not going to spend more time with the grandchildren if you're president, Bernie.
They'll
Well,
go
actually,
visit you.
He'll go.
actually, the kids are already planning to move in. And I'll tell you something. I am very blessed with 7 beautiful grandchildren, 4 kids. They are. They are the love of my life. And you know that bumper sticker? I saw this bumper sticker, and it said, if I knew how much fun grandchildren are, I would have had them first. That was, it's true.
Well, you're a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. We don't agree on a lot. I'm a libertarian. I'm a small government gal. But you and Hillary both, this week, for two people so well-versed in New York, you had some trouble on the subway.
Yes.
I hear Hillary Clinton had a hard time with her Metro card. You can see she couldn't get through. And then you were talking about tokens, which I haven't seen in some time. So, Bernie, we have something for you.
Okay.
We have a Metro card.
What is this?
Ask Hillary how to use it.
Exactly. I gotta stick up for Bernie because that told me that you are a real New Yorker, because real New Yorkers use the tokens. I used to use a token to go to high school on the subway.
Yeah, but
Right.
to ask you if you're a real New Yorker, we've got one more question for you. I know this irked a lot of people when John Kasich came to town. Even our own mayor, Bill de Blasio, eats his pizza with a fork and a knife.
What's the matter with that, Bernie? I think we might have a problem right now, Bernie.
no, no, no.
Wait,
have a
I'm
pizza.
from LA, and you can have a fork and knife on the pizza.
Let's
See,
see
that's
how
these
it's done.
California people.
know.
Can we see
What
how
can I
it's
tell
done?
you? We've always known how weird these
Here we go.
California people are.
Bernie,
No, no.
we're going to give you a chance to eat it like a real New Yorker.
Oh,
I don't see anything wrong with a fork and knife if you have a
come
germaphobe
on,
moment.
no.
You don't
Raven,
want what?
no.
this is a lot to eat. I
Wash
have
your
to tell you
hands,
this.
people.
Would you like a slice, Senator?
Now, this.
Now show us how it's done,
Yes.
please.
Do it right.
That looks so.
I can feel
Come
it.
on.
Are you all ready?
Yes, fold it.
That's it.
There is no sorry, California, no debate on this one.
Come on.
Not in my diet.
Oh, please.
Well, anyway, we loved having you here yet again. Good luck to you, Senator. I hope you'll come back before the election.
And
Will you?
I absolutely will, of course. If you invite me, I won't.
We always invite you. Our thanks to Senator Bernie Sanders, and we'll be right back with more Hot Topics.
Hey, I'm Anderson Cooper. I can't wait to see what's coming up on Hot Topics.
Our next guest, CNN's Anderson Cooper, pays tribute to the life and loves of his famous mom, Gloria Vanderbilt, in their new book, The Rainbow Comes and Goes. And you can also see them in the new HBO documentary, Nothing Left Unsaid, which really, literally lives up to its name. Watch.
This is what he looked like when you first met him?
Well, it's a terrible photograph of him, but he was 63 when I first met him and married him.
And was it something you, like, as soon as you saw him, you thought,
Instant.
really?
Knew him for a week and married 3 weeks later.
Please welcome Anderson Cooper. I love the documentary so much. It was so touching and moving. We'll get to that in a second, but What do you think of our interview with Bernie? What do you think of
It's
Bernie?
strange to suddenly sit in Senator Sanders' seat. I'm usually on the other side of the table asking him questions.
Yeah.
Look, I think he's, you know, he's doing better than anybody when he first entered the race. Doing better than anybody probably ever expected.
Right.
And look, he's given Hillary Clinton a great run, and I think it's great. You know, whoever you support, I think it's great for the process to have, you know, candidates, competitive race on both sides of the aisle. It makes all the candidates, frankly, better. It makes Hillary Clinton a better candidate.
Well, they said that he's pushed her more to the left. Do you agree with that?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, she's taken a lot of positions that are much closer to his positions and done them often, you know, against a lot of expectations.
You said you're sitting in the senator's seat. You're used to being on the other side. I know you've moderated presidential debates, and you had an interesting exchange at a town hall meeting with Donald Trump when you pressed him about Ted Cruz's wife. We want you to all take a look.
Yeah. After saying that you were going to spill the beans about Heidi Cruz, you retweeted an unflattering picture of her next to a picture of your wife.
I thought it was a nice picture of Heidi. I thought it was fine.
Come on.
I thought it was fine. She's a pretty woman.
You're running for president of the United States.
Excuse me. I didn't start it.
Okay,
I didn't start it.
But, sir, with all due respect, that's the argument of a 5-year-old.
I didn't start it. No, it's not the.
Yeah,
no, it's
the argument of a 5-year-old is he started
You
it.
would say that.
Okay,
They
how
love
do you,
that.
how do you keep your cool? How do you keep your cool, Anderson? I would have ran across that table so quick.
That's what he does for a living. That's why he's so.
I mean,
That's what you have to do.
There has to be a moment where you're like, are you serious, dude? How do you keep your cool like that?
You know, it's not my job to judge people. My job is to present people with facts and challenge them on facts. And so, you know, in that statement, I do think this, you know, saying he started, I do think that is the statement of it's a statement of a child. And, I think there's nothing wrong with
It's like, I
pointing
know
that
what
out.
you are, but what am I?
Right.
12.
But look, even, you know, look, I think Donald Trump has brought a whole lot of new people into the race and gotten people interested in this presidential race long before a lot of people. I mean, the number of people watching these debates is huge, to paraphrase Donald Trump. And so, you know, again, whether you like him or not, or whatever your politics are, it's brought more people in the process, and I think that's good for our democracy.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you, is it fascinating to interview him? I've never had the opportunity.
It is.
Is it just like you're waiting to see what can he say next?
Look,
I mean, I just imagine
I give him credit for showing up for interviews. There's a lot, you know, we would reach out to Ted Cruz all the time, never get a call back.
Really?
A lot of candidates are like that. Hillary Clinton is a tough person to book, or has been up until recently. So, I mean, she still is, but I give him credit for giving interviews. You know, he talked to the New York Times for, I think, 100 minutes talking about foreign policy. I think they said that was the longest any candidate has talked to them.
Well, that was when I realized he didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, you can argue whether it's good for him to be showing up like this or not, but I give him credit for showing up.
So, you know, I know that you have a big social media following and you're on social media a lot. And we were talking about this, about how you handle trolls.
Yes.
What do you do?
I've evolved on this. I used to sound like a politician. I've evolved. I mean, I used to occasionally somebody would annoy me if somebody said something factually incorrect to me, like, "Oh, you just said this on TV and I did not say that." I would then read their entire Twitter history and I would respond to them by going deep. I would say, like, so, you know, perhaps you should, you know, if they tweeted a lot about like cinnamon muffins, I would say perhaps you should spend less time making cinnamon muffins and more time actually paying attention to what's happening. I like to go deep on
Time
people.
consuming.
This is what
It was
I
very
like.
time consuming.
I was always...
Life is too short to be doing this.
Do you
so
even respond now?
I
or
don't. I try not to respond.
Do you
I really,
look though? But people want to. Do you look?
I do look. It's hard not to. You know. I mean, I think it's good to get constructive criticism. So I do read people's responses, and I like the conversation. I do try to respond when I can to people.
What
but
about when they just insult you and they're so evil?
you know, if it's somebody who doesn't have the guts to have their name or a picture of themselves, I don't respond.
Oh, I
if
see.
you're arguing with like an egg, I find that
That's
sort of
different.
Do you block? Do you block people?
I don't block people, no.
Do you mute them?
Because blocking rewards them. People, all these trolls want to be blocked. Because then they put it on their Twitter feed like, "Oh, this person blocked me," as if that's a sign of power or something.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah.
You know what you should do? Do what I do. You retweet them, and then you send all of your fans to drive them crazy, and you
is
just
that
go
right?
do
Calm
something else.
down, Bayhive. Calm down.
She sounds like Donald. That's what
Sounds
Trump
like
does.
Beyonce's
I'm
fans.
sorry. You're going to talk to me? You
My
want the
mom always
fans?
tells me this saying, which is by a guy named McLaren, who said, "Be kind because everybody you meet is fighting a great battle." And the times in my life where I have not lived up to that are the greatest times of regret of my life. So I try to be kind because, look, everybody is fighting a great battle, even the trolls on Twitter.
Okay, well, with time now. We want you to stick around because we want to talk about that wonderful mother of yours. So we'll be right back with more.
Welcome back, everyone. And we're back with Anderson Cooper. Now, just moments ago, we were a little surprised to hear that Joy is Bernie's crush. Actually, I'm not your irresistible, so how could Bernie resist you, Joy? But do you have a celebrity crush?
Well, I would say Sonny because I'm sitting next to her.
Thank you. Thank you,
But,
But if you weren't sitting next to Sonny, who would it be?
I did. Well, this is embarrassing.
Okay, nobody's watching. It's actually, just kidding.
I'll say mine if you say yours.
I ran into Nick Jonas at the airport a couple weeks ago. I gotta say,
I was going to say, Anderson,
he gave me one
Sonny
of-
is not on your team.
he gave me one of those bro hugs, which I gotta say are so unsatisfying.
It just
I
whet the
wanted to linger a
appetite.
little bit. There was no lingering.
that I was maybe his celebrity crush. Anderson and I, of course, worked together
Yes.
on CNN
go
for
way back.
years, and he's always been wonderful to me. The one thing that was interesting to me is, even though we worked together for years, I never Googled people, so I didn't know Gloria Vanderbilt was your mom. And the first pair of jeans that I bought
Is that right?
were Gloria Vanderbilt jeans. I saved forever to buy them, and I had to have the ones with the V on my butt.
Sure.
But your mom, Gloria Vanderbilt, has been famous since she was born
Yeah.
into one of America's wealthiest families in 1924. And at age 10, she was the original poor little rich girl during a scandalous custody trial.
Right, she was taken away by the courts from her mother and given to her aunt. And it was, at the time, it was called the trial of the century.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge trial, and it really has kind of shaped her life. And we wrote, when my mom turned 91 last year, she got sick for the first time. And it made me think that when my dad died when I was 10, I grew up believing that maybe he had written me a letter that would show up when I turned 18 or when I turned 21. And of course, there wasn't any letter. But I didn't want to have that feeling with my mom. I didn't want there to be anything left unsaid between us. And so we decided to start a new kind of conversation. And it's the kind of conversation I think a lot of people would like to have with an aging parent. And a lot of parents would like to have with their adult kids, basically trying to get to know each other in a new way as adults before it's too late. And so that's what the book, The Rainbow Comes and Goes, that's how this book came about. It's the conversation my mom and I had over the course of a year about her life and about my life.
Yeah,
and it changed our lives.
It's a beautiful movie, and it's a touching book also.
Yeah.
But some of the revelations about your mom, she had relationships with Howard Hughes, Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando. You're being kind by saying relationships. Some of them were like one-night relationships. You know what I mean?
She was a gorgeous girl.
She
was a real beauty.
Yeah, she was
Gordon
beautiful.
Parks.
Yeah.
But,
Gordon Parks,
she-
amazing photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, really, and Stokowski, who was like her father.
Leopold
really.
Stokowski, he was 63. My mom was 21 when they met.
But she seemed to have really loved him.
Oh, she totally loved. You know, it wasn't like, and my mom had a lot of money back then. It wasn't like some young person going for a rich guy. It was kind of, you know, I don't know what the attraction
Can we say
was.
daddy issues?
Maybe, yes,
Okay.
well, I'm sure.
So, but she also reveals that when she was a teenager, she had a lesbian affair. Was that shocking to you?
Totally shocking. I had no idea. I was like, you're 92 and you're still like revealing things to me.
Yeah.
In fact, she says she wishes she was a lesbian because all her greatest friendships are with women. And she's like, she actually said to me the other day, some people just have all the luck, like, you know. But she's nice. When I came out to her, she, you know, and we write about this in the book. You know, she says, I said to her, you know, I'm happy that you accept me. And she said, I don't just accept you, I rejoice in the fact you're gay. I wouldn't want you to be any other way.
And you should have known that when you were 12, probably, right?
I did, yeah. So.
At the end of your film, you have this incredibly touching scene where you and your mom go to the grave sites of your dad and your brother who committed suicide at 23. I love that you included this.
Yeah.
It touched my heart. What made you decide to put something like that in the film?
Well, I mean, I think loss, anytime you've lost somebody, particularly if you lose somebody early on, and a loss like my dad and my brother, as you said, killed himself, and he killed himself in front of my mother. And so this is something which, you know, it changes the course of your life. And we don't talk about loss much. You know, people get nervous talking about grief and loss. But, you know, oftentimes in people, you see on television, people use the word closure. There is no such thing as closure. It's such a silly word. You know, time moves on and things heal, but the wounds remain. And so that sense of loss is something I've always felt in my mom. And, you know, I think it was important to include in the film visiting the graves and talking very freely and openly about loss and grief, because I think it's part of the human experience.
Right. Thanks so much for coming on the show and
Thanks.
talking to us. And Nothing Left Unsaid premieres on HBO tomorrow night. And the book, The Rainbow Comes and Goes, is on sale now, and members of our audience are going home with a copy. Anderson, staying with us. you. We're back, and Anderson Cooper is still sitting with us.
Yes.
So what have you got coming up besides this
Sonny and I are
wonderful
both
movie?
doing Jeopardy tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're taping a Jeopardy show.
We're not competing
I've
against
been
each other.
practicing on, the buzzer.
Yes, we've been practicing. We're not competing against each other, I don't think. But Anderson has competed 3 times and has kicked butt. And
No,
so
I won twice, but I lost once. And when I lost big to Cheech Marin of all
Oh, my God. He's brilliant.
He's really smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to go. It was really nice to see you.
great. It was fun.
Okay. Thanks to Anderson Cooper yet again. And have a great day, everyone, to take a little time to enjoy the view.